Welcome to our Easter programme. Today we'll be having a look at two of the main characters of Passion Week, Pontius Pilate and Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene being, of course, the very first person to see Jesus risen from the dead and know that he is a living Saviour. The Roman theatre in Malaga, how many dramas have these stones seen throughout the centuries? But nothing so dramatic as what happened in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. Come with us now up to the Roman fort, the Gibraltar, and meet with Pontius Pilate.
Weird. These Jews. Unpredictable, emotional, hysterical. One week massing in the street to call him the Messiah, and the next baying for his blood, like a pack of wolves. Weird. I knew about him, of course. I had my spies. Well, I had to. This was the week of the Passover, religious fervour burning like a dark fire in the synagogue and on the corner of every city street. And I had to keep a lid on it somehow as governor. And then I have to deal with this man who enters Jerusalem, enters my life, and blights everything on the horizon.
Why did he choose that particular week, the week of the Passover? Very bad idea. Everyone and his slave was in town at the time. And of course, the grim grey fathers of the Sanhedrin were also there, Matthias and us. And they didn't take very kindly to having this religious upstart muscling in on their spiritual territory. He made a lot of enemies that week.
But imagine my delight when they fall upon me at an unearthly time of the morning with their prisoner, this Jesus Christ character. And they want me to put him to death, try him very quickly. The charge they put against him was blasphemy, calling himself the King of the Jews. So I asked him, "Are you the King of the Jews?" To which he answered rather vaguely, "It is as you say." Well, what does that mean? But there was something about him that was different. Something about him that rather made me believe him. He had this extraordinary air of innocence and purity that I can't put my finger on. Certainly not something I would normally associate with the Sanhedrin. So that was the dilemma I was in. How to keep the Sanhedrin happy, but also make it look as if I was doing my duty. What was I going to do? Well, I am a genius. I've worked out my Jesus problem. It is the Passover, and as such, as Roman governor, I am allowed to set free at least one Jewish prisoner. So, I can make it look as if I'm condemning Jesus and have the Jewish crowd beg me to set him free. And isn't it wonderful that at the very same time, I have, in my cells, a walking crime wave called Barabbas. Rape, extortion, murder, terrorism. I can't think of a crime he hasn't committed. Plus, everybody hates him. So, I will offer one and the other up to the crowd. They will choose Jesus, and I'll get out of my problem.
Citizens of Jerusalem, I present before you two men, both of them prisoners, and it is your choice whom I am allowed to set free as Roman governor at the Passover. Jesus Christ or Barabbas? But I can find no fault with this man, this Jesus Christ. What would you have me do with him?
Away with him to the cross! Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him! Crucify him!
Well, I wash my hands of this whole affair. I give him to you. Do with him what you will.
I watched him die. The jeering, the screaming of the Roman guards and the spies sent by the high priests. I just had to block them out. All I could see was his pain, his agony. My teacher, my master, whose whole life and message was kindness, love, healing, meeting this barbaric death, surrounded by hate and casual cruelty, and I could do nothing to help. The guards, they threw dice for his robes. Somebody went about the crowd with sweetmeats and nuts like this horror day was entertainment. Some were actually laughing. And then the sky went black, so dark. It was as if the elements themselves were enraged by this atrocity. Everything went quiet then. The hecklers, they were frightened. And even more startled when Jesus himself spake, and not with the breathless gasp of the defeated or the tortured, but in a strong, full-bodied acclamation of victory. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Then I saw his head fall, and I knew he was gone. Later, when the crowds had dispersed and Jesus' body was taken down, me and what was left of his followers who were brave enough to stay proceeded downhill to the little garden cemetery. There we met Joseph, a counsellor from Arimathea, and he had received the right to the body. I was so pleased. He laid it to rest in a brand new tomb he'd originally planned for his own family. It was very kind. And that's what they did. With great tenderness, they rolled a great stone across the entrance. Once back home, I paced the floor all night. For the whole day of the Sabbath, I was quite demented, desolate, cried all the time. The image of those 3 crosses and my beautiful, wonderful Jesus rejected. Is this how it ends? Please, God, tell me this is not how it ends. Well, minutes felt like hours. Hours felt like days. But the Sabbath finally passed, and under the cover of darkness, I headed back to the tomb, taking with me spices to embalm my master's body. Maybe the Roman guards would take pity on me, roll away the stone. So imagine my shock when I got there and the stone had already been moved away and Jesus' body was gone. I was distraught, hysterical, fleeing back to the city to find Peter and the others straight away. And I said, "They've taken the master away. He's not in the tomb anymore," I shrieked. Well, Peter and James got up immediately, of course, and they all headed and rushed as quickly as they could to the ceremony. I couldn't keep up with them, and by the time I'd arrived, they'd all gone. So I was very stunned when I approached the tomb, and now it wasn't empty. No, there was a bright light pouring out of it, and seated on each side of the laying stone were two angelic figures, dazzling, luminous. And one of them addressed me, "Sister, why are you crying?" "Because they've taken away my Lord," I said, "and I don't know where they've put him." I was in a bit of a state. At that very moment, I sensed another's presence behind me, and I turned, and I saw the gardener. I think he was the gardener, I presumed. "Oh, please, if you have borne him hence, tell me where you've taken him, and I will go and take him away." The figure uttered just one word: "Mary." Oh, it was my own dear Lord. I knew it straight away. My heart burst with joy and my spirit soared. All the loneliness, desolation evaporated. "Touch me not," he said, "for I am not ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend into my Father and your Father, and to my God and to your God." Well, later, much later, in the upper room, I would tell all these things to Peter and the others, and I told them that my Lord would visit them one more time, but that he chose me first to reveal himself in his resurrected glory is such an honour I will treasure even unto my own grave. On that day, me, a woman the world had rejected and pilloried, least worthy of all his followers, I was the first to know the full truth of the resurrection message. It's wonderful. My Jesus, what love you showed me. What love you showed us all. And you still do.